Welcome to episode 1.5 of Lost and Found and Rewound. Fast forward. We are in between episodes. We've just completed The Wicker Man, just putting a little episode in between the episodes to help everybody understand what we're going to do next, to give a little bit of feedback, to further confuse the timeline of this podcast, which was what I was really excited about, because we recorded 8 episodes across the course of a year, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was May when we recorded The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
And now we're recording this episode a week before we release it, and 3 weeks after we've released the Wicker Man episode. So, I mean, come on. Figure out. It's going to be so confusing. The other thing that's confusing is that a world event has happened. I won't reveal too much about it. But a global event has happened. And you'll just have to figure out what global event that is. Could be World War II. Could be 9/11. Could be when the giant squid attacked New York.
Or could have been that Trump virus.
The Trump virus?
Yeah.
What's the Trump virus?
The Trump virus that happened in 2020.
I've never heard of it.
He got Mar-a-Lago.
It's like Obamacare. You got your Obamacare and you got your Trump virus.
Which would you rather be associated with as a president, care or virus? Jim?
I think care.
That's correct. $200. Margaret Meehan.
Thanks.
The Beatles.
Rick,
I'm doing my, what is it called? Not Dimwits. What is it called? Oh, it's an amazing SCTV sketch.
The Beatles.
I don't remember that sketch.
It's basically the sketch they ripped off Celebrity Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live from. It's just, it's basically Eugene Levy playing, what's his name from Jeopardy? But like
Burt
he does, he does a slow burn. Alex Trebek. He's basically Alex Trebek doing a slow burn through the whole thing, and Catherine O'Hara, yeah, just answers the Beatles to every question.
I just remember Circus Lupus, Circus of the Wolves, just don't sit in the first 3 rows. That's my favorite. So on the fast forward episodes, they're shorter, I think.
Nah, they're not going to be. I'm telling you right now, because I got a lot to talk about.
What have you watched since we taped episode 8 of the show?
Oh, I have a huge list, but I need to tell you the 2 movies I watched yesterday and the day before. So I watched, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Uh-huh.
I watched the 2006 Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, I should have done that. I was going to do that.
Oh my God. As I was watching it, I was thinking...
Are you sure you don't want to start your own podcast about it?
I may, because I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot of notes.
Shot in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Is that
was
right?
It?
Neil LaBute.
Oh,
no,
Neil,
that's where
yeah.
In the Company of Men was shot in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at this awesome zoo.
It's possible. As I was watching it, I say the first 3 quarters, I'm going, this is not bad. This is actually pretty good. It looked pretty good for a 2006 movie. I liked the cinematography. And basically what happens is Nicolas Cage ruins the end of the movie, and it becomes laughable. The tone goes from being okay and weird, and then it goes over the top at the end, and it didn't work, the switch over. So all the craziness at the end of the original Wicker Man, right? You felt like you had built up to that.
Right.
And there's lots of weirdness in the remake, but he gets really sort of out there right at the end. There are a couple scenes that I laughed at. Like when he gets, I don't want to ruin it for you, but they pour bees into a funnel, into a cage in his head, and he yells something like, not the bees! Bees, why bees? I think he yells, why bees? The good things about it. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Like spores, deadly spores.
Spores, yeah, it was like that. But in Existence, the spores, deadly spores, it feels funny, and it's the idea it's a computer game. It's a video game, right? It's a non-player character or something. Angelo Badalamenti did the music, so the music for it is amazing. But it's that Twin Peaks kind of over-the-top music. Has a boat plane, a seaplane. Has the missing girl, his last name is Woodward. and Nicolas Cage's character's name is Edward. So that's weird. Ellen Burstyn is Christopher Lee. There's, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but he gets to punch a lot of women, like seriously, like violently attack them. And by the end, I felt like once again with Neil LaBute, he's not just a misanthrope, he is a misogynist. The island is more of a matriarchy kind of thing, and the men are these hobbled. I think they have their tongues cut out, so all the men they can't speak. They're hobbled in some way, and so it just kind of fell apart at the end. And then the best part, and this ties into another conversation. I don't think it's in this previous episode or the next episode, or I think it's between the first episode and the second episode. We talk about the Warriors in every episode. Chris, you talk about the Warriors, right?
We do. We
do. And
our love of the Warriors.
So the big climactic ending of Wicker Man goes to black, and then there's a title card that says, "For Johnny Ramone."
Wow. I thought it was going to be, it goes to black and it says, Nick Cage will return in The Warriors, kind of like at the end of those James Bond movies where they say like James Bond will return in Moonraker, and then he like showed up in The Spy Who Loved Me or something.
But as you remember, The Warriors was Johnny Ramone's favorite movie. Apparently, the reason why Nicolas Cage knew about The Wicker Man was because Johnny Ramone said, "You got to check out this movie, Wicker Man." So the tragedy of all of this, I think, is basically we're probably going through Johnny Ramone's favorite movies in this podcast, and we didn't even know it. And he's unfortunately no longer here because he died during the making of Wicker Man.
He could have been a guest on this show.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that would have been our way in, is like, well, we're doing something on Wicker Man. Chris likes the Warriors. Maybe that would be enough to get him on.
Yeah, it'd be a little segment just at the, a little.
You'd be talking
Johnny's
to
corner.
Him. Yeah, Johnny's corner. And he'd be really animated talking about the Warriors and talking about Wicker Man, and then you'll say something about Sharky's machine, and he'll just walk away from you. That's the scene I imagine with you and Johnny Ramone, Chris, in the alternate time line that we're living in here.
Who's to say that interview hasn't happened or isn't going to happen?
Right.
The way the time works with this podcast. I mean, we truly are. We really have beat time.
It is amazing.
I've been so excited about that all day today. I was thinking, I can't even quite get the time. Like, that's how you know a good time movie is when you're confused as to how the timeline works, but you know that it does. So I think we've accomplished that with this podcast. It's a great job, guys.
And the movie I watched last night was Midsummer. I watched it.
That was on my list as well. What were your thoughts about Midsummer?
Very upsetting. I think there's some interesting stuff with a bear, and so I know that Nicolas Cage had a conflict about when he could wear the bear suit in the Wicker Man remake. My theory now is, Ari Aster, the guy who directed Midsummer, basically he was like, I'm going to show Neil LaBute how to make the Wicker Man for the 21st century. Because it's got a lot of references to the Wicker Man, but it does not feel like a ripoff of the Wicker Man. It feels like an update. It's got some violence that I spent a lot of time covering up the screen. All of the first hour is all of that. I'm in this weird place, and then things really violently shift, but not in.
So wait, you were covering up the screen because you can't touch your face, right? Is that why? You're not supposed to, obviously.
Yeah, instead of covering my eyes, it's for some reason it's easier for me to block. So I can block off the area where the action is happening, where the horribly maimed face is on the screen, and then I can still kind of watch what's going on. So there's psychedelics involved too. So it's not just simply the weird pagan culture ceremony stuff. There's also, well, yeah, but it's got psychedelics in it, so I guess maybe it's kind of like got some elements of altered states, maybe.
Yeah, like Inca kind of stuff or something, like
Yeah.
Mesoamerican
Yeah,
ritual
but this is
stuff.
And Jim, you would like it. I think I liked it because it's a Swedish pagan cult. So there's so instead
Look,
of it, yeah,
it's a gorgeous film, absolutely gorgeous film, but I greatly disliked it.
you saw it.
I saw it, and I think that you talk about this a lot on this podcast and others about the auteur, right? Having complete creative control, writing and directing, and he shouldn't have just like Steven Spielberg. He shouldn't have complete creative control. He cannot write for shit. He films these beautiful, gorgeous films and occasionally sets up some interesting scenarios. But his films are always ripoffs. The Exorcist 3, that was basically what he ripped off for that movie Hereditary.
Okay.
And then, I mean, he even ripped off scenes directly from, and well, he did the same thing here with The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man built to something and built to an ending that really, it accomplished what it was doing. It was an arrow and it hit its mark, whether you liked the quality of how it got there. I mean, it was far worse shot, far worse edited. All the technical aspects of it were way worse than Midsummer, and Midsummer was great. But the plot of Midsummer was just all that beautiful tension and gorgeous imagery and the drug trips and everything, all really well done. And then the end is just some blunt slasher film that I just didn't quite get the payoff to. In addition, well, I mean, there was a huge hot sex scene in it, I guess. But other than that,
I didn't. Yeah, and that's the thing about it is I didn't think that was hot. I mean,
I didn't either. That was a
it's
joke.
terrible. And I don't. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's one of those terrifying cult, movie scenes. Yeah, that's interesting. I liked it. Well, somebody talked about it being a 2.5 hour, sort of breakup movie. And I think if you look at it in that context as a metaphor for a bad relationship and how it ends.
Oh, I like that. That's a good way to look at that film. Probably the only good way to look at that film from my perspective. I think he needs somebody to edit his scripts.
I liked it better than the Wicker Man remake.
Well, I would hope.
What this means, Jim, is that you have to watch it and then you have to decide who's right.
Okay.
And then the majority will rule.
Next episode, I guess. Yeah.
That's how this podcast works. We're here to vote against one another.
I have a list of 18 movies that I've seen since we last recorded an episode.
You want to rapid fire them, good, bad, as you go?
Gorky Park. I watched Gorky Park the day before Brian Dennehy died. So Brian Dennehy is in Gorky Park. I liked it. Watched Goodfellas again. I was amazed at how fast it moves and how much camera movement there is. 1917. I thought it was good.
I thought it was an amazing technical achievement. I got a little bored.
I liked the death in that one too. I guess I just like slow, long movies with meaningless deaths sprinkled throughout.
That had an impact. That scene definitely had an impact on me, and I think it was the most impressive scene.
Troop Zero I have in here, which is some movie about a young girl who wants to get her voice on the Voyager spacecraft golden record, but has the most horrifying ending, and I don't mean in terms of terror and everything like that, but the weird everybody getting together and supporting the nerd moment was so odd and off-putting that it's almost worth watching, even though it's just a junky Amazon movie.
I see tears in my future.
Yes.
That would make me cry.
Parallax View. I watched that again. I had to watch that again. I'm watching all
Never seen it. I need to see it.
Parallax View is a great movie. I always laugh when the assassin falls off the Space Needle. So you can watch that and realize what's wrong with me, or again, realize there's something wrong with me. Trouble in Mind, which is a movie with Genevieve Bujold, Chris Christopherson, and Keith Carradine from 1985, directed by Robert Altman's second director on a lot of films, and then he made some films in the 70s and 80s that are interesting. The Shootist, which is John Wayne's last movie, gunman dying of cancer, it really upset me and made me cry, and it was terrible watching the old John Wayne with cancer playing a character as a cowboy with cancer, and how he's just ending his life and kind of finishing off his time in the world. It really messed with me.
Was it like Prairie Home Companion? Have you seen that film?
I did, but I don't remember.
It's about death. It's basically Altman filming his last
death.
film.
Yeah. I watched Boys from Brazil.
Oh, I need to see that too. All these I haven't seen. I need to see them all.
Steve Guttenberg's in it. 63 Up, the next installment of the 7 Up series, where Michael Apted, who actually directed Gorky Park, I forgot to mention that. So Michael Apted, who directed the 7 series, where they talk to these they start out talking to these kids when they're 7, and they've been filming them every 7 years, and now they're up to 63. That was another one that was really upsetting, because all these people, some people are dying and people are getting sick because they're 63, and then you see the arc of their lives and all of that. It's always been an overwhelming series, but now it's kind of like, and Michael Apted is in his 80s, so it's also their conversations. He's not always in the movie, but now they're starting to talk to him, and he's starting to talk about, is this the last one, kind of stuff. So it's that same thing. Yeah, the same as the John Wayne movie and same as Prairie Home Companion.
I'm starting to really struggle with the concept of 20 years from now, I'm going to be incapable of many, many things, or dead. And that I can see how that would trouble me, but it's inevitable.
Angel Heart, we had talked about Angel Heart sometime, and I watched that.
I love that movie. Is it hold up? I haven't seen it since I saw it way back when.
I think it's problematic, but I think it was problematic when it was filmed. So I think it's the like.
You think there should be a politically correct devil figure?
Yeah. There's no reason. The problematic stuff is in service of the story, so I didn't have a problem with that. The Russians are coming. Any movie with Alan Arkin, I love, and so
he's the best.
Falcon and the Snowman. You guys ever seen that?
Yeah, on Betamax. That was one of the few films when the Showtime first opened up. One of the few films they had on beta, so I watched it several times.
A great movie with Sean Penn acting. You know, some Sean Penn movies, it's not great, but Falcon and the Snowman, it's just amazing. And then Timothy Hutton's great too.
I had completely forgotten about Timothy Hutton in like just a few years ago. I saw the Roman Polanski movie. Timothy Hutton's in that. I'd completely forgotten. He showed up. It was like he came on the screen. I was like, oh my God, he looks pretty much the same. Just he's older, but he looks exactly the same. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. Yeah, I don't know what other movies he. Those movies. He the one thing he does well is computer animation. I mean, it seems obvious now when I see them, but a lot of those movies, like the Ghost Rider one, there's all this stuff. I saw a movie, like kind of a making of thing, little short about it, and it's like, oh, that's all fake. It's like all these, it's just stuff out the windows, like fake scenery and things. And he in the Ghost, I think Death and the Maiden has a lot of that too, but it's kind of early. But he seemed to be good at doing it subtly, like it. You wouldn't notice it was digital. It was obviously, saving lots of money.
Did he work on the Star Wars prequels?
When you're a great artist and you can't leave France, you're going to have to be good at, creating fake environments. Right. When you basically have to do all your filmmaking within Paris.
He really loves France. Just won't leave it.
Yeah, just can't leave. Can't leave France.
Who would? If you lived in Paris.
Bugsy Malone. I watched Bugsy Malone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great film.
Alan Parker film. Yeah. With
the kids movie?
The kids movie. Where
I love that movie.
Yeah. Chachi, right? is in it. He's the
only
actor. No, not Ralph Macchio. No. Scott Baio.
Scott Baio.
Oh, and what's her name? this minor actress from the 70s, Jodie Foster. She's in it. The Muppet movie, which featured Austin Pendleton, who comes up in a later episode. James Frawley directed it, who directed a lot of the Monkees episodes. Madeline Kahn's in it.
Wow.
She comes up in a future episode. James Coburn's in it. He comes up in a future episode. Charles Durning's in it.
No spoilers.
He comes up in a future episode. Elliot Gould is in the Muppet movie, comes up in a future episode. So I think we may have to watch the Muppet movie again. And the last two I have on my list, I'll just lump them together, is Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin and then the Jacques Tati movie, Playtime. Pretty much the same movie.
Wow.
No.
Jim, what did you watch?
Well, actually, yeah, like tying in with Jacques Tati, I watched. There are like these three of these movies by the same Russian director. Like he was called Leonid Gaidai, Gaidai, and they're like kind of like these slapstick comedies, and like from the late '60s and early '70s in color, but they're kind of like silent films too. So that's what it reminded me of Jacques Tati. It's like weird modern '60s color silent movies almost, but there's dialogue and stuff, but they're slapstick. But they're on. I found them on YouTube. There's like a Mosfilm, the state studio, the Moscow Mosfilm studio. They have their own official YouTube channel, and so they have all their old films, but they have like a specific playlist of movies with English subtitles. So I watched. There are three of these. I don't know where I think I'd heard of one of them before somewhere, but the one is called Ivan Vasilievich Changes Professions. And then the other one, the good one was called Operation Y and Shurik's Other Adventures, which is like, I think that's the one that's 3 movies, but it's kind of like the same character is in all of them. He's kind of like a nerdy, very earnest and not righteous, but they're all very kind of, they're definitely like kind of propaganda films almost. It's like being a good citizen, a good Soviet citizen. And he's like he's like a student and studying and like engineering college or something, and it's like but all these crazy things happen to him, and they're all like very sweet, like innocent movies, but they have kind of recurring characters who I have a feeling were all like probably circus performers, like Russia I think has all that Russian circus kind of tradition, and these guys seem like some of these people they seem like they were probably clowns, but they work in it's a slapstick movies, so they're a lot of physical antics, and it seemed they were like very skilled. They were like almost like vaudevillian kind of actors or something like that. So, but
well, in America they have circus performers, and in Russia the circus performs you. Right? Is that a joke? Oh, maybe not. Trying to get my Yakov shtick down.
I saw something with Yakov Smirnoff. I've bookmarked that director. He's on my playlist now.
Yeah, they're the 3. Oh, the other one was like called there's some weird, speaking of things that don't hold up, or the one part is definitely pretty racist, or it's almost like old Bugs Bunny cartoons, things that they've edited out, that are weird, like, but this was like late 60s, so
the Russians, the civil rights movement hadn't quite made an impact yet.
Yeah,
I think the Russian civil rights movement's about 100 years off from now.
Oh, the other, speaking of all the Robert Altman, I tried to watch Quintet again, which is his sci-fi movie that he did like in 1978 or something. And I remember I'd never really heard about it, and a few years ago I'd heard about it, and I tried to watch it, and I couldn't get through it. And then I just, a month or so ago, I was like, I never watched all of that movie. Why didn't I finish watching that movie? And it sounds like it can't be that bad. And but I didn't get through it again. But
did you start from the beginning, or did you start?
No,
where
I
you
restarted it. Yeah, and did not finish.
There's your problem.
It's not. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to get. I'm not
whole group of movies of his. They're like the minor ones. Yeah, I never watched that one. There's the one with Keith Carradine, right, and Shelley Duvall. Thieves Like Us. Is that Altman?
Maybe. But
Yeah, I've watched a couple of those, but not that's
Quintet sounds like such a good idea. I keep falling for it. It's like it's post-apocalyptic whatever, and like kind of like the Earth is really cold, so it's all they filmed it in Montreal because they didn't fake the cold, so it was like really in the middle of winter in Montreal, and they filmed it on like the island, like the old grounds of the World's Fair, like Expo 67, kind of the ruins of that. And so it sounded like such a cool idea, and they just used the old buildings for the sets and sprayed them with water, I guess, constantly every night, so it would be covered in icicles the next morning. And it was a really dangerous shoot. People were falling all over the place. I think nobody died, or maybe some people broke their legs, but the actors were walking around on all this ice-covered, the old ruined buildings and things. But yeah, it's not. I don't know. I don't think you should even try. Give it a try. Go and I don't know.
Yeah, well,
it looks.
Now you keep talking about it. Now I gotta get through it to show that
sounds
that
great.
It can be watched.
It reminds me, I read this book on John Carpenter, and they kept describing Dark Star.
Oh yeah.
And it was written by a proponent of his, like somebody who loved him. And then when I tried to watch scenes from it, I mean, they're just absolute garbage. Just like they're like, a beach ball is a character, and then when you watch the film, you're like, yeah, it looks like shit. I mean, what an accomplishment! Like they were saying, like, isn't that amazing? It's like, no, it's garbage. Make a person a character. Then of course BB-8, I guess, is just a beach ball. Now that I think about it, and I love BB-8.
I also watched Disney Plus. I think I talked about Disney Plus. I must have talked about The Black Hole. I watched that on Disney Plus. I watched Herbie the Love Bug and The Black Hole on Disney Plus. Those are the only two movies I've gotten through on Disney Plus. There's nothing else for me on that besides The Cat from Outer Space, which I'm saving for when we can all watch it together.
Season 2.
But The Black Hole is a pretty good science fiction film. It's got Maximilian Schell in it, who's just amazing. Like Maximilian Schell, like the have you ever seen the Freshman with
Matthew Broderick?
Matthew Broderick, yeah.
Yeah, so Maximilian Schell is the crazy cook guy. He said there would be one boy and there are two. Yes, I brought my friend. He said there would be one boy and there are two. Maximilian Schell's amazing. Anyways, he's the mad scientist off near the black hole, but then it's completely ruined by the goofy BB-8, like it's the fake R2-D2, which is voiced by Roddy McDowall, but is so crappy looking and so goofy and like played for comedy. It ruins the whole movie.
There's a pretty good actor in The Freshman, Marlon
Brando. Yeah, Marlon Brando's good.
He's like
I think that
Ralph
was,
Macchio and Scott Baio. He's an Italian.
I feel like that was the first movie where he had the earpiece. I believe The Freshman might have been the first Marlon Brando getting his lines through a earpiece movie. He's good in it, but if you know that.
Because that character probably had hearing problems.
But that was the thing that Marlon Brando would do, apparently, is he'd just have a little earbud, and somebody would be reading him his lines, and then he would say them.
It's like an opera singer. Didn't they have in operas, they'd have the guy down in front.
Oh, right, yeah, helping out.
Yeah, he's like in a little box. You couldn't see him from the audience.
Wait, what? Opera singers don't know their lines?
I think they were just like a director or something. They'd cue them and stuff. I've just seen that I've seen that in movies, or there's some little person sitting in I don't know if they really had those, but
in Citizen Kane, the guy is down there while she's the second wife.
Right.
Susan Foster Kane is singing. He's down in that little box below the stage.
Yeah.
But she's a bad singer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think Jose Carreras needed that guy. I'm going to go, God rest his soul, I'm going to believe that Jose Carreras didn't need a little guy.
Prompter, is that what they were called? I don't know. Something. It's like a teleprompter, but it's
They
originally
were probably called prompters.
I think
and
that's
then,
what it is.
What else have you watched, Jim? Any more
just
Peng Su? I've been watching a lot of Peng Su.
Not as much lately, but it's kind of on the same line. Dr. Katz, professional therapist. You know, the
Oh,
old.
wow.
Oh, yeah.
I had forgotten how great those were. I've been going through all those again. Those are amazing. Obviously, the great guests. You know, all the comedians on that. There's such a wide variety of people on it. Weird. I'm trying to think who.
When they were nobodies, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think Mark Maron was on.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I saw that one, and yeah, it's like everybody. Yeah, and it's great to revisit.
Speaking of Dr. Katz, I think I watched another season or two of Archer. So that's got what's his name's voice? The son in
Okay.
Dr. Katz
Yeah.
is the voice of Archer,
Well,
which is always good to hear.
Right, yeah.
I'll do rapid fire. Henry Louis Lucas, The Confession Killer, sucked. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, I liked it. Den of Thieves, awesome. Uncut Gems, hated it. It was actually Uncut Gems. Have you guys seen it?
No.
I have not. I've seen the other movie by those guys.
Good
Did they
Time?
do? Yeah. I
Haven't
like
seen
that
it.
movie.
It's supposed to be good. I need to see that. Uncut Gems was essentially The Gambler with the unhappy ending. Spoiler
Wait.
alert.
The Gambler has a happy ending?
Wait, was it The Gambler? Yeah, The Gambler ends positively, right? Or negatively?
I guess it just depends on
It's
how you
positive.
look at it, Chris.
I think he wins. Doesn't he win?
He wins. All I remember, not to ruin the ending of The Gambler, is the loud Mahler soundtrack and him cutting his face with a pocket knife
Oh.
because he had won, but he still needs to get some kind of just pure visceral pain or
Right.
loss. So yeah, he does win, but you understand that it's not winning is not going to solve anything.
Okay, then Uncut
He's
Gems
gonna-
is essentially The Gambler then.
Oh.
Now that you remind me of that.
But Adam Sandler was okay. Was he okay?
Fantastic. Great performance. And had
Great.
they rewritten the end of that script, it would have been a great movie.
Okay, William Goldman.
I'm hard on the scriptwriters today. I saw Jocko, the documentary about Jocko Pastorius.
Wow.
Was that depressing?
Yeah, it was frustrating.
Somebody had recommended the Trio of Doom record, which was Jocko and Tony Williams and John McLaughlin, and apparently they were put together as a trio to play the show in Cuba, and then they went to record the songs that they had performed, and they couldn't make it through the recording session. So the record came out a few years ago, and it's basically half a recording session because Jocko and Tony Williams got into a fight and they couldn't finish the record. It was like a 1-day recording session, and they walked out, and so there's a half a record.
RoboCop 2014. Saw the remake of RoboCop. It was terrible. Sorry to bother you.
Oh yeah, I didn't make it all the way through, but that was not because I didn't like it. I just somehow got distracted.
I think it is the one film I'm really struggling with all these class war films. It was the one class war film that I thought was really well done, and very original, and had some really smart things to say about it. It reminded me of like sort of the modern day Do the Right Thing, just because it kind of attacked the topics from both sides. Where if you watch Do the Right Thing, I'm certainly there's a point of view there, and it's coming through loud and clear, but it's also being there's a lot of empathy in that film. I felt like Sorry to Bother You had the same.
Yeah, and that's always been my kind of take on Do the Right Thing, is that it's a much more subtle kind of film, but then the way Spike Lee positioned himself during that time when the film was being promoted, I think it was because he was already doing Malcolm X, so he was kind of in that mindset. The film itself is much more nuanced than, because he said some things about Do the Right Thing where it was like, no, this is right, this is wrong, and it's like, no, there's no gray area here, but every time I watch Do the Right Thing, it's like, no, this is a very amazing, nuanced discussion of race.
It was a great nuanced film, but the critics came out and thought it and tried to frame it as a film that was going to cause a lot of violence, and it was very racist how it was reviewed. And I think then he was like, okay, fuck this, I'm going yeah, I'm going to go hardcore publicly.
Yeah.
At least that's my read. And it was, well, he should, because the reviews weren't fair. It was a great film. Book Smart,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
loved it. Chernobyl,
Oh, you watched that? I think I mentioned that in one of the episodes
I
that
loved
we've
it.
recorded. Yeah.
Rick, so Jim, have you seen it, Chernobyl?
No.
You should watch it. I'm going to make a prediction without going on a diatribe here. I suspect that the current world crisis that we're going through right now is going to be the Chernobyl of the country that originated this issue.
I think you're right. It is
Yeah.
definitely our Chernobyl. Yes.
Oh no, I don't think it's a U.S. Chernobyl.
I think it is. Well, it's the world's Chernobyl.
So you believe in the narrative that our president is selling that Nancy Pelosi planted the virus?
No, what I'm saying is so Chernobyl is all about, kind of a flawed system, right? And so when you say that, I mean, I think it applies to what's going on now.
Sure.
And when I say a flawed system, I'm not talking about the Center for Disease Control or the World Health Organization. I'm talking about conservative, sort of free market, every man for himself, sort of that system. I think this is the Chernobyl of that. I think the scarier thing to me is that, oh yeah, we can keep having these disasters happen and then somehow we survive. And the thing is that it's starting to feel like the disasters are getting more and more complex and more scary, and we keep kind of working our way out of it in a heroic way, in a reactive way. But at some point, you can't improvise your way out of a problem once it happens.
Right. Well, I think survival is the most powerful trait of the human animal. Right? It's been able to survive over almost all other animals because it adapts and figures out how to live. By the way, I want to say I am the most straight edge person on this podcast now. I haven't had a drink since early March, and I don't drink caffeine, so I am not the drug-addled boozer that my co-hosts are.
And that's weird because I've started drinking. No, not true, but
I'm exactly the same. I've been just steady.
Hasn't changed you a bit.
Keep steady, yeah, steady as she goes. Everything's going along fine.
I've even stopped eating meat mostly.
Wow.
I've been eating sustainably. I've been eating a lot of duck eggs because I've got lots of duck eggs to eat. Dolomite is my name.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that. I need to watch that.
I loved it. The Master.
Ugh, I hate that movie.
I didn't like that, but I really liked Inherent Vice. Because
Inherent Vice felt like, in the same way that the book felt like a reference to The Big Lebowski, I think the movie felt like that too. But again, it's like making a Thomas Pynchon movie, and you can't make a movie out of the Crying of Lot 49. You got to do Inherent Vice. I didn't understand that.
I don't know what that is. So I did read the book you all told me to read, so it took me 4 months, but I got through it.
Can you tell us what it was about? I don't remember.
The Mixed Up Files.
Mrs.
From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler.
Right.
It was about two young kids who
run
away from home
hide
to
out
live
in a
museum.
Yeah. The Met, right?
Great. Yeah. Great book. Loved it.
I'll have to read it again. Yeah,
It's great. Good recommendation. Thanks, guys. And I got through it. It only took me a couple months to get through.
Now that you've got some time, you can get through your young adult fiction.
I did that actually on the plane, so that all these people are watching me read this like kids book, thinking, "Oh, what a good dad! He's probably reading that because his son's reading it." Don't Fuck with Cats, the documentary.
don't
Compelling, but brutal. Don't watch it. Marriage Story. Oh God, I hated that. Evil Genius, another true crime documentary. Compelling, but dark. Training Day for the first time I had ever seen.
Wow. I remember liking that.
It was really good. Loved it. But
Denzel Washington.
I
It's
find him
bad Denzel
attractive.
Washington, right?
Yeah, he won an Oscar.
And Ethan Hawke.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, great
Yeah.
film. The Killer Inside, The Mind of Aaron Hernandez.
What is it with you in these? Why would you watch those?
Well, that's about an NFL tight end, so I like football. But yeah, that was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. You don't have to like football to find that fascinating. Yesterday, I thought it was trash.
Ugh. I could barely look at the poster for that movie.
I love that director too. Danny Boyle's one of my favorite directors.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Heat, I watched again after watching Den of Thieves. It was great. 1917, we talked about. The Golden State Killer, It's Not Over. So again, another true crime. Parasite, we said we're going to hold off on. The Handmaiden, which is just essentially softcore porn disguised as art. The Lighthouse.
Oh, I got to watch that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I got to watch that.
I'm
We'll talk
interested.
about that too,
Yeah,
right?
I'm interested in your review of that. Birds of Prey, The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Loved it. Great film.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
See, the problem is my 11-year-old now I think he was 10 at the time, wants to see that, and it's rated R, right?
It's pretty violent.
Yeah, that's a movie that should have been PG-13, and they decided to make it an R movie, right?
Right, because of Deadpool and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you couldn't watch 11-year-olds shouldn't watch that movie. I don't know. Make your own. I mean,
That's what I said.
I watched Taxi Driver when I was 10, and I certainly wasn't a troubled young child. Oh wait a minute.
Says the person whose half of their list is
Starts off with the
behind
words,
the
the
scenes
killer.
of a serial killer. You basically like had a whole subgenre of serial killer documentaries that you every time it's a quarter of your list.
I watch that stuff because I'm so fascinated with it, and then I have this sort of I feel like I have a heightened empathy, and I just like start to it just scares the shit out of me, and then also makes me feel tremendously bad about myself the whole time. I mean, I've never serial killed anybody, but I feel like I get where they're coming from, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to know where this person is coming from. Phantom Thread.
Oh, I saw that. I like that.
Yeah, I liked it too. VFW, I watched that in LA, a limited release film with a bunch of great old 80s action stars. David E. Kelly was in it. He was in The Warriors. He played Luther in The Warriors. Also played Luther in 48 Hours. Repo Man, the original film.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy. Loved it.
Rick and I,
Have you-
we saw that in the movie.
You hadn't seen it?
Rick and I saw
I'd
that
never
in
seen
the
it.
movie theater, right? I think.
Yeah, we mentioned it on one of the podcasts. I think we were the only people who went to see it.
Right. Yeah. That's.
Yeah, I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
Thought it was time.
Mhm.
Bad Boys for Life. Let me say, as many accolades as that film is getting, it doesn't hold a candle to Bad Boys 2. So if you guys, I would say, I know the both of you are looking for this tip. You don't have to see the first Bad Boys. Go straight to Bad Boys 2 and then skip Boys for Life, and you're good.
All right, so I won't be confused if I watch Bad Boys 2.
No, yeah, you don't need to see the first or last film to understand the second one. Sullivan's Travels.
Ah.
Oh, man, I love that movie. I haven't watched that in forever.
It was awesome. Loved it. And then Eep Man 2 and Eep Man 3.
I remember Eep Man. I don't know if I ever watched any more of them.
There's 4 of them. The second one's fantastic. The third one's good, and the fourth one's supposed to be pretty good. So, just trying to finish off the Eep Man series. That's it for my list. Boy, that was long. Sorry, guys.
Woo!
We got through that.
It's been a long time. Yeah. I have a couple of comments reflecting on stuff we said in the first episode. And so Rusty mentioned that the film I was talking about in the Wicker Man episode with William Shatner and the Satanists, it's Devil's Reign, which I have not watched, but Rusty watched it. So next time, So yeah. So
Do you
somebody
know
else
Rusty?
made the sacrifice to sacrifice. Oh, that's funny, but it's the Satan worship movie. But the interesting piece of trivia about Devil's Reign is that they made a mask of William Shatner for that film. They made a face. What do they call it? A face impression of William Shatner's face for Devil's Reign. And do you know what happened with that mask?
Halloween?
Yeah, they made it into a Halloween mask, a William Shatner mask, and then that was the mask that they used for Jason.
Wow.
Which one is in Halloween? Jason,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Michael Myers. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. Sorry, I
An
don't.
Illinois
again,
resident. How dare you get
not
that wrong?
I have seen Halloween. I don't think I've seen the other. What's the other? Is Friday the 13th, Jason?
Friday the 13th is a great film. The second one.
I haven't seen that. It's
should
by
watch-
Wes Anderson, right?
Actually, there's a scene in the second. Is it the second one or the first one? I'll have to figure it out. Definitely with Bad Boys, it's the second one. But for the Friday the 13th series, I think it's the second one as well, where there's just this amazing Hitchcock-like scene of tension when she's making coffee in the kitchen. We got quite a few downloads for a first episode. I was pretty surprised. I did boost post it, but we got a lot of listeners and a lot of UK listeners, Jim. You'll be happy to know.
Cool.
They're all like, this Jim guy knows us. He's talking about Children of the Stones. He's talking about Wicker Man. He's talking about
I
Avebury.
can go deeper. Like the other thing I've been watching, or I haven't been. Well, I didn't bring it up the first time. Whatever we recorded last year. This episode, the children. Well, talking about Children of the Stones, but one of my favorite podcasts is Richard Herring's Stone Clearing podcast, which I can't talk about because it's secret. So, but there's definitely some crossover with Children of the Stones and I don't know, and Wicker Man. Yeah, I think everybody in the UK knows Wicker Man is definitely. I mean, people in America know about Wicker Man too, obviously, but in the UK, I think it's much deeper. It's much more, much better known, and well, especially Children of the Stones, obviously. That people, I think, our age over there, it really goes deep. I keep hearing references to people about that from their childhood, so it really affected people.
Well, there's lots of comments on the social media site that we put up from people from Great Britain commenting on the film. There's one guy that says, "I love this film so much that about 18 years ago I went down to see all the sites where the film was made."
Sure, why not? Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
And then there's like Isle of Wight still does this.
right.
Lots of great films, excellent films. Where is the one I thought was A Cornish Home Movie? Cornish Home Movie. Now, to me, that sounds like a jab, but I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, they're just saying, Cornish, like, this is just run of the mill. This is home movies, just this would be if you watch people's home movies. That's the joke, right? Yeah.
And then somebody writes, "Got the DVD free in The Guardian a couple years back." Is The Guardian a British rag of some sort,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah. They do great online reporting now too.
It's
Not a sponsor.
All I know is my brother-in-law dated a very famous British celebrity, and he was seen in like Hello magazine. Is that one of them? I forget what it is.
Oh yeah.
They had a picture of him holding broccoli in a parking lot of a grocery store. He's like,
that's probably the perfect British tabloid experience where it's kind of just for a small moment in your life, you get the full impact of the insanity of it, but without knowing that, for the rest of my life, these people, these monsters will be torturing me and putting pictures of me up, right? It's
Right.
like he just had he had all the fun of it without the life destroying characteristics if he was a full-time British celebrity.
Well, and the interesting thing was he was dating her in the States. And so these British tabloids were in the States tracking her, stalking her, taking these pictures. So he never really felt the brunt of it. It like all would happen overseas. Like, so they all knew who he was in Great Britain.
Wow. I've got an update. Like at the end of the Wicker Man episode, we were talking about Toby Jones, and I was talking about his dad. You know, Freddie Jones was the actor that was also in Children of the Stones.
Right.
We were talking about
Right,
Toby
yeah.
Jones in the Berberian Sound Studio, whatever. But I mentioned that Freddie Jones was still alive, but I think it was probably just a month or two later he died, unfortunately.
Oh.
Freddie. Not did I say Toby? I meant Freddie, his dad, you know. But I was amazed.
dad,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was amazed that Freddie Jones was still alive. But since then, he passed away.
Was he a casualty of this global
No.
situation?
No, this was right after we recorded. This was like last year after we recorded the Wicker Man episode. So, but he was like 91. So he was.
And I remember what I saw him in. He's in The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
He's a pretty major character in that. So it was like, oh, that's where I saw him from.
Yeah.
I had watched that recently.
Well, this episode's dedicated to Freddie Jones and the legacy that he left. 91 years old and an incredible trail of credits.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Freddie. We've come probably to the end of our episode. This, you can tell what happens when we don't see each other for a while. We tend to watch a lot of movies, and we tend to talk quite a bit. I did miss you too, although I did have the pleasure of listening to us talk to one another for about 10 hours, so that was nice. I was like, I can't wait to get some Lido's pizza and nuzzle up to those two again. And maybe after this global situation resolves itself in 3 or 4 years, we can do it.
So we've got 7 episodes in the can after this first episode. We've got 7 more, right? So we got 7 months before we have to get back together. So hopefully
we can we can work out some kind of. We'll be wearing some kind of suits, you know, those hazmat suits or something. We could do.
Right. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing will be is if the global situation resolves itself so that we can be together prior to the conclusion of the 7 months, so that we can start taping episodes again prior to the end of the 8 run, and again shifting the time continuum.
It'll get so crazy.
Right. In fact, when this podcast becomes so popular that we have, just followers upon followers, doing things, fan art, fan fiction, someone will have to draw the timeline of how this all fits together.
I imagine it's like the timelines they have on Wikipedia of members of like British rock bands that have been around for 50 years.
Genesis.
You know how they have, like where they have the mapping out of who was playing what when. It's going to have to be one of those graphs like that, except for just when these episodes were actually recorded.
I always find myself going to Wikipedia every 3 months just to figure out Simon Gallup's participation in The Cure. When did it stop? When did it start? When did it restart? I never can remember, so I always go back and check that because he's one of my favorite bass players. Jim, I believe your film is next. Would you like to announce the film?
We watched Runaway Train.
Or we're going to watch Runaway Train.
Yes. Well, I don't understand this time thing. This whole recording,
It's all just a constant.
things, and how they get played back. I don't understand this stuff. But
You're like Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen, right? You're in all moments simultaneously.
we are watching Runaway Train as we speak.
Right now. I am watching it with you right now.
Isn't that what's happening?
Lost and Found and Rewound is fully funded by Lost and Found and Rewound Foundation funds. Lost and Found and Rewound does not use crowdfunding because our listeners have better things to do with their funding. There's no need to post reviews of Lost and Found and Rewound because our listeners have more valuable things to do with their time. In all sincerity, thank you for listening to the show. We truly appreciate it.